What's up guys, John from Beginner Trading here, and like I said, in today's class we're going over the 1 minute pullback scalping day trading strategy. You have to trade this one the correct way. There's a few different ways to approach it, but we ultimately filmed this class about 13 months ago, and so we did have it in our library and decided to upload it to our YouTube today. With all of that being said, the strategy is very similar to what I see a lot of people calling the 3-bar play, but it does have some subtle differences, and so make sure you understand that moving forward. Before we go on to the actual video here, remember guys, if you have not subscribed already, click the subscribe button and then click the bell next to it to turn on notifications. We day trade live on stream for free every single weekday morning on YouTube. We're not experts, but we just review what works specifically for us, and we're just a free resource and community for traders. And so if you appreciate free content like that, hit the subscribe button and let's take a look at this video. Alright, so the 1 minute pullback is somewhat of a scalping strategy that revolves around taking advantage of minor pullbacks and consolidation in a breakout or parabolic stock. It's a long strategy. Sometimes you will see these kind of occur with downtrending stocks, and sometimes you'll see them, in short strategies, but mostly this is a long strategy. And like the big thing to kind of take away from this slide is that it usually happens around big breakout / parabolic stocks. The parabolic curve is significant in this, and it's something you want to look for when you're attempting to trade a 1 minute pullback, because if the stock doesn't have enough volume, this isn't really going to work that well. If the stock is trending sideways, it's really not going to work that well. And so the best way to really attack this, and the best time to attack this strategy, is specifically when a stock is breaking out in a parabolic way with a parabolic curve. And we'll go over the parabolic curve in a second, so you all can kind of see what I mean by that. And so this is the basic strategy here. You basically look for a 1 minute pullback, a small pullback with a red candle with decent support below it. Now you can wait for the breakout at the open, but one thing you're really going to want to look for with this 1 minute pullback is you're going to look for hammer style candles. You can see this is a hammer style candle, and this is what you're going to see a lot of the time with these 1 minute pullbacks. It's a good way to kind of get some confirmation ultimately in the strategy, is looking for these hammer style candles. Now you're going to basically enter this one as it breaks the previous high, and so you can see the previous high here. You basically can enter there, and there's two ways you can ultimately set your risk with these, okay? One of the ways, it seems to be the best risk reward way, is to use the low of that 1 minute candle as your risk. If it breaks under that 1 minute candle, you can get out for a very small loss, very minor loss, and look to get a decent run up after that. And so again, a lot of people use this low of that red candle as their risk, and it makes sense why. I tend to like doing it that way. You could also use the bottom low here, but if you use the high or low of the previous move, like down here, then you ultimately need a little bit larger reward because your risk is bigger. And so you do want to take that into consideration. But again, like I stressed in the previous slide, the big thing to look for here is parabolic curves, and you want to see the stock moving up in a very voluminous way, because that's ultimately going to help the strategy. Alright, so conditions of the trade. The first thing you really want to understand about this type of strategy is volume is key. With any type of parabolic or big voluminous move, you really want to look for a parabolic curve, and you're going to need volume for that. You need to have a significant amount of volume in order for the momentum on this setup to be there. And so it needs to have volume. Volume is super important with this strategy. It's a scalping strategy, and so a lot of times volume is super important with most scalping strategies. And so that's something you want to understand with this. Look for big volume coming in. This trade sets up typically with a large volume spike at the open, or maybe even midday. The stock will usually be above the VWAP in a bullish trend, as do most long strategies unless they're reversals. But a large spike of volume, regardless of the time of the day, is key. It often works well, like this says, with parabolic stock. It often works well with parabolic stocks, as many traders are waiting for an entry, and so they're looking for a pullback. When a stock starts to go parabolic, traders start waiting for an entry. They don't want to chase. A lot of times they want to get in after a pullback. And if you're not going to be buying the dip method, you can use a 1 minute pullback method. And so again, it works well because volume is in there and traders are looking for an entry. They're waiting for a pullback. And when you finally get a quick short pullback on the 1 minute chart, and then it quickly breaks the highs, a lot of traders are jumping in once that high break happens. I've been wanting to stress this, is that you want to look for parabolic curves. Can everybody see the parabolic curve? This is BPTH when it kind of went crazy, and this is the type of curve you want to see. Can you see why You want to look for a parabolic curve like this. You basically want to see the stock getting higher and higher and higher, and more volume coming in until it reaches this, and so you can see the curve here. The curve is way more important, but what you don't want to see is this. Okay, you want to see it the opposite way. This is parabolic. This means the volume is dying. This means volume is increasing as it gets higher and higher. And so you're not going to see it very often with moves like this. You want to see it more with a parabolic curve going up. And like I said, this means volume is getting lower. That's why it's curving like this on the top one. This means volume is getting higher the higher the stock moves up. And so you want to look for a parabolic curve with these. Those are when it's ultimately going to work the best. All right, so here's an example, and again, what do we see here, guys? We see the hammer style candle. Can everybody see this here? We see the hammer style candle, which is what we're really looking for with these a lot. You can see at this point right here, originally we have this type of move. We have the volume getting lower. Right here, the stock actually starts to go parabolic, and you can see the parabolic curve. Can everybody see that? That's when this strategy is going to work the best. That's really when you need to start looking for this strategy. And honestly, this is one of the reasons I decided to do the 1 minute pullback class today, is because we've had a lot of parabolic movers in the market lately with BPTH and SEEL and all these other ones, A and Y. We've had a lot of different parabolic moves in the market, and it's good for you all to understand a few different ways to trade these things. There's the 9 EMA pullback that Mitch brought up, and there's just a lot of other ones. There's dip buys, and this is just another method of attacking that. But you can see the curve again. This means volume is dying, and this means volume is going up. And again, if you look here, we get a big volume spike starting this parabolic curve. And that's when we're going to attack the strategy. Again, like I said in the other slides, you're looking for hammer style candles. That's the 1 minute pullback, and we get a hammer style candle. And that's kind of gives us an extra bit of confirmation. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hammer style candle, but if it is, it's even better. And so when you're looking for this strategy, again, you want to see a parabolic curve, you want to see volume come in to kind of confirm that parabolic move, and then you want to see a hammer style candle. If those three conditions are there, that's when it's going to work the best. I typically like entering these after the red candle forms and the following candle breaks the high of the day. This confirms the upward momentum of the stock, and it ultimately, makes sense why we would attack parabolic moves with this type of play. Entries with these can be subjective, as some like to enter as the first pullback candle is forming, and that's okay too. I don't necessarily like that way as much. Basically, you're trying to enter a little bit lower as opposed to when it breaks the high of that first move. But like this says, it's all subjective, and you can really attack it however you like. And so here's an example. Again, you can see the entry level here, hammer style candle. This is when I'm talking about getting in, when it actually breaks this previous high right here. It can be the high of that red candle. It can be the high of, a previous high already. And again, we see just to stress it again, we see the parabolic curve. Now, to see if everybody's listening. So what are two areas we can set as risk with this type of trade? Where should we set our risk? My favorite level to do it is probably here. The low of that first red candle. You can let it test, but you can use that low, or you can use the previous move, and so you can use this level here. This one's completely up to you. I tend to think that this level works a little bit better. I think if the 1 minute pullback is going to be successful, and considering it's a scalping strategy, I tend to prefer to like to use this top one here, because that makes the risk a little bit tighter. And if you think about it, if it breaks under that, then the 1 minute pullback has failed, because it hasn't pushed up as much as you want. I mean, it could find some support here, but I think the low of this red candle makes a lot of sense. And it's another reason why we want to look for parabolic moves, and because they're not going to pull back more than that if they do. So we're looking at the stop in this case. The 1 minute pullback candle typically presents itself as a hammer style candle. This shows the momentum is on the upside and thus beneficial for a momentum breakout long base trade. Hammer here, here. And so we can set your risk and reward with these, like I've kind of talked about already. With these, many traders decide to use the low of the red candle as risk, giving them a short measured exit point if the trade goes against them. Another popular reward targets are half and whole dollar levels. major support or resistance, or just waiting for the next red candle as confirmation exit. A very similar way to the EMA strategy, the moving average crossover strategy, to where you can just ride this one up until you get another red candle, and once you finally get a red candle, if it breaks the low of that new red candle, then you can get out of it. But it ultimately depends on how far it's pushed up. But, like I said, half and whole dollars are reasonable. Previous support that turned into resistance, so forth and so on. These are subjective as well. It's going to vary with the person, but my goal in this is just to give you ideas with your risk and reward. And we'll go over a few examples and, kind of how we should approach it in a minute. Now, we see a parabolic curve. So here it wouldn't have worked. Here it's not going to work as well. But when we get a long-term parabolic curve, we see volume start to come in as confirmation. That's when we're ultimately going to start looking for these. We see the parabolic curve and we see volume start to come in. That's when we're really going to look at attacking these. And you can see this candle forming. So at this point, we know that we have a few things as confirmation. We have volume. We are waiting for this candle to finish forming. And this is another aspect that might not be talked about as much, but as you're doing this, especially if you're looking for a 1 minute pullback, you're essentially waiting for this candle to finish forming. If it forms a hammer candle and breaks this high right here at 480, then we can effectively get out, and we can set a 490 area as our reward target. We can set the whole dollar of 5 depending on if it actually goes that high, or maybe in this situation we'll just use the next 1 minute candle. It's a scalping strategy, and so we can even use 1500 shares here since it's a scalping strategy, and the goal is to use bigger sizing and faster, quicker trades. And like I said, we're just waiting for this first 1 minute candle to form. We got a nice parabolic curve. We have volume coming in as confirmation. And like I said, in this case, we're basing it off of the candle here. We can see a hammer starting to form, a hammer looking candle starting to form. We have the really nice hammer forming. And so in this case, we're going to get in when it breaks the highs. What's our risk area? The low of the hammer, that's right. So we could use this 471 area as our risk and get in when it breaks the high of these two, of the previous high of the day at 480 here. Alright, we had the breakout and broke the 480s. And we're just looking for a quick move up here. It broke the 480s. We can still set this level as our risk, 472. And so our risk is about 10 cents or so, and we're going to look to get 10 to 20 cents from it. We can give ourselves a 1-to-1 risk-reward target. And again, with these type of moves, I don't necessarily advocate scaling too much. I think it's all subjective. I guess you could scale out of this one if you're interested in it. But really, we're just looking to get a quick trade in and out, riding it up the breakout. If we wanted to hold, let's say we held here, then we can rewind it. Just to go over the example again and show you another method of approaching it. Let me reset the account so we can have a completely new account. 105 is what we would have made there for a quick scalp. And, we can also hold it until the next red candle. We can hold it as long as the candles continue to come in. We can hold it until the next red candle. Jason, good question. So how do you calculate your reward? So like I said, in this case, you could use a 1-to-1 target. You could use a whole dollar of 5. And so, for instance, if you want to use a 1-to-1 target, since it's a scalping strategy and you're just looking to take big size and get in fast, take advantage of high accuracy. If you get in, you could use a 1-to-1 profit target. And so if you get in at 84 and your risk is at 72, you have a 12-cent risk. You could try to go from 84 up to, 96. You could go to 96 up here. You can set your reward target right here. Or you could do the whole dollar of 5. Or you could just let it go until the next red candle forms, giving yourself a much tighter risk. Because I think even if you go until the next red candle forms, you're ultimately going to get a little bit tighter risk versus the reward you take. That's anticipating that the stock is going to move up more than your risk is in this trade. So say you get in at 84. Hotkeys are really good for this type of strategy. I probably could have gotten a little bit better entry at like 82, 83, but 84 is fine. But like I said, there's a few different ways you can approach it. Most of the time, your risk is going to be smaller. So if you used 1-to-1, your risk would be up here at 94. or from 84 up here to 96. If you use the whole $1.05, it would be 16-cent reward target versus a 12-cent risk. And so there's a few different ways you can approach it. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Remember, if you have any suggestions on any type of video content, styles, classes, etc. that you would like to see us do, let us know right now in the comments below. Also, remember to trade responsibly and treat your trading account like your bank account. Good luck in the market, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good day. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this, and we'll see you guys next time.